Okay, welcome back to members of 121 Community Church in Grapevine, Texas, in our ongoing study in A Philosophy of Religion by Edgar Sheffield Brightman, published in 1940. We've looked at the methodology, and we now move on from methodology to the very first early movements of the concept of religion. We'll look at pages 31 to 63. And if we begin by taking a look at block 1, we'll look at speculative investigation. Brightman says we begin with a survey of the facts of history, psychology, and sociology, which will be a descriptive gathering. And he says Hegel is a good example of this methodology. We begin with the primitive in order to acquire the development of man's religious culture. And our first axiom is the fallacy of primitivism, the assertion that any process can be understood by knowing its primitive form. Axiom 2, investigation must include development from the primitive to the mature. So we end up with the following inferences. Knowledge of beginnings will remain speculative. It'll be drawn from common traits. And then a third axiom is axiom number 3, understanding of primitive religion has a speculative character. The beginning of religion is found in the fact of death, and when magic fails against death, then religion emerges. From here we want to move on and take a look at the historical concretions of religion, to see how this movement from primitive to the maturity of religion begins. Begin with the category of persuasion. Religion is an attempt to persuade the cosmic forces to be friendly toward humanity. There are values worth striving for. Religion aims to increase values. And Brightman says that there are 4 concepts abbreviated under the category of persuasion: animism, spiritism, toadism, and mana are all abbreviated under the category of persuasion. So in note 2, we'll take a look at the 4 abbreviated concepts. Animism, all natural objects are animated by life, power, and feeling, and without any notion of formal concepts for mind and matter. All life has rights of its own. Now, spiritism, dream experiences play a role. In dreams, ordinary laws are suspended. The notion is posited that souls are not bound. In totemism, a totem is mysteriously connected to a tribe for its well-being. It becomes a type for tribe unity. It becomes a sign from the ancestors. Mana is a concept for force or power. It's the transitional concept from magic to religion. It's a force which can animate an animate object or an inanimate object. Now, the category of persuasion and the 4 concepts abbreviated under persuasion lead to social organization. Early religion is social, says Brightman, includes tribal custom and initiation rites, forms of sacrifice, and the aim is the preservation of traditions from the ancestors. It is exclusive rather than inclusive. But there is the evolving to the larger society, from the particular social to larger societies. And Brightman says, as an example, we can look at the 12 tribes of Israel. There's a seeking of a broader base of unity. Religion becomes national, and there are 9 aspects of a broader national religion. It is particular, socially organized, contains temples and shrines, rituals and sacrifices, sacred writings, the concept of morality, the concept of soul and immortality, and it does worship the gods. So we get this look at the fact that our investigation into religion is going to be speculative in nature, and it's going to be that which evolves out of the questioning for trying to control the cosmic forces, says Brightman. And when it happens, it evolves through various stages of animism, spiritism, totemism, and mana as a transitional concept until there comes to that point when social organization evolves, very similar to the 12 tribes of Israel. So from here we want to move on to block 3 and take a look at religion in its quest for a broader base of unity, not to a particular tribe, but to a broader base of unity. How does religion transition to this phase? And we look at the 9 aspects of the national religion. It is a particularism. It posits the values of a particular group. It has the concept of a chosen race, the idea of the saved or the elect. It is social organization. Religion accompanies social organization. Religion prescribes the structures of sociology. Categories emerge for the sacred and for the profane. It does include shrines and temples. Centralization of worship emerges. The temple in Jerusalem is an example. Along with this goes the power of the priest class. It also includes ritual and sacrifice. Religious rites are communal or represented as communal by the priest. Psalms emerge, and the invisible power is approached through sacrifice. Next, we have the sacred writings that emerge. There's the development of language and learning. Beliefs are committed to writing, and this writing contains the moral ideals and the approved practices. Morality emerges as a concept. Religion sanctions the morals of a group. It posits ultimate values, and it seeks to conserve those values. Under the soul and immortality, there's the evolving concept of the underworld. Immortality is based on the idea of the free soul. It becomes fully developed at the prophetic level of religion, when religion evolves to become prophetic. It's usually polytheistic, made up of one family of gods, but a polytheism, and there's a multiplication of minor deities as well. From here, though, from this national religion, after transitioning through the social, there's the move to universal prophetic religion, says Brightman. There's the move to universal prophetic religion. It is universal in outlook. It is individualistic in interest. It is ethical in nature. It is intellectual in practice. And it does turn toward monotheism. So, universality starts to emerge, this concern for the universal truth. And so, Brightman does elaborate on the meaning of the prophetic. In note 3, the prophet declares divine truth. It's derived from experience and reflection. It's considered revelatory. It is considered revelatory. Truth is universal at a broad and international level, dealing with universal human problems. Truth is individualistic. The individual is directly related to God, and the notion that one will reap what one sows is posited. Truth is ethical. There's the respect of the rights of others and the practice of cooperation. Justice becomes a theme. Truth is intellectual. The thought of the individual is encouraged. And key here, the atmosphere of discussion emerges, which is very important, which gives birth to that Aristotelian idea of the Dokunta threshold, where dialogue takes place. Truth is mystical because the inner life is recognized, and inner enlightenment, and then truth becomes monotheistic rather than polytheism. Polytheism is negated. So universality comes to the forefront through the evolving religion of the prophet. Prophetic religion brings on the concept of the universal. The universal divine truth becomes central for prophetic religion. But it all begins in this lesson with the idea that our investigation is going to be speculative in nature. I mean, later it will take up phronesis and praxis, but initially it is speculative in its investigation. It begins with experience. The methodology was last lesson. We know that it's empirical methodology, but non-scientific method, which leaves room for speculative investigation. Still remains empirical, but it is speculative and non-scientific. It will begin with very primitive ideas of a nationalistic type of religion, which is really kind of enclosed in on itself, and it moves out of that egoistic stance when it evolves to prophetic religion. So you've got the speculative investigation, the initial primitive socially exclusive position, and then the more mature social inclusive position. You go from the speculative to the socially exclusive to the socially inclusive. Speculative investigation, primitive, socially exclusive religion, reaching the maturity of socially inclusive religion that posits the notion of divine universal truth. So this gives us basically, we move from methodology to the very beginning of Edgar Sheffield Brightman's phenomenology. He begins his phenomenology with the notion that it is empirical in its methodology, but it is speculative in its investigation. We do not take up the scientific method. We take empirical non-scientific as method. Empirical non-scientific. We begin with speculative investigation. It will transition into the practical later. Initially, it is empirical non-scientific. Empirical non-scientific. We learned that last lesson. He reinforces that here in Block 1. It is empirical non-scientific. It is speculative in nature. It begins, though, by passing through stages of a primitive form of an egoistic type of social bonding that turns in on itself. It becomes exclusive, not open to others. But moving toward a maturity in religion, we move on to the prophetic religion, which is universal and inclusive and turns outward toward others and looks for the positing of divine universal truth. So this lesson in pages 31 to 63 gives us Brightman's very first posited notions of the movement of religion from a phenomenology base, beginning with phenomenology, beginning with empirical method, beginning with non-scientific approach within empirical method, which can be speculative in nature, and then passing through the primitive toward the mature, passing through the primitive toward the mature, which must be the recognition of prophetic religion, which is universal in nature and posits divine truth. So we'll stop here. We'll pick up next time on page 64.